telling you Willy Wonka created flubber.
Dad, the nutty professor did not create Toontown. Ah!
The question is, why I would fight my daughter in the middle of the street? To answer the question, I have to turn you over to the conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theorist, could you tell us why we're arguing in the middle of the street? Dude, why are you over there? Dude, don't ask me stupid questions. The story. I don't understand why you're so mad. I just asked a question. To fully understand why me and my daughter are fighting in the middle of the street, you just gotta go back a little bit, and I have to explain to you the same thing that I explained to her of what was actually going on. It's really simple, right? I was explaining how Charlie and the Chocolate Factory had this brilliant scientist from Willy Wonka who created a bunch of different types of food and gum and all these other experiments to enhance his factory, right? And one of the things that he created was this bubble gum that would make you balloon up to exorbitant proportions. And he had this brilliant idea that if he could create a bubble gum that could make you balloon up, he could also make a bubble gum that could make you slim down. So he had one of his chocolatiers, the Nutty Professor, go off to try and figure out how he could make a diet shrinking potion to make people slim down. Now, the problem with this potion was that it also adversely affected the mind, and people didn't really understand how they could sell a diet pill that also created multiple personalities disorders. No one really wanted that as a marketing tool. So the next thing that they tried to figure out what was it that was in this compound that made it so dynamic, so that it trimmed off fat and reduced a person's body image, right? So as they continued to tinker and toy with this new formula, it started becoming more combustible, right? And that combustion energy turned into what at the time was a thought process that it could actually help propel additional car engine parts, that it could do other things with cars and make cars more dynamic, thus making the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang story. The Chitty Chitty Bang Bang car was a car that created the whimsy and magic of the Wonka factory, but it wasn't practical for the times. So they tried it as a more combustible formula in Herbie and the Love Bug. Herbie and the Love Bug, like I said in the beginning, took on some of those more dynamic and magical properties. But the problem with the formula resurfaced again, where the formula actually took on a mind of its own as it merged with Herbie the Love Bug. As Herbie the Love Bug goes out on all these different adventures, the scientist continues to tinker and toy with the formula to see what else he could kind of make out of this formula, to see what else other inventions, how to make Furby go faster, bounce higher, jump, and all these other things. One of the things that happened was during an accident, one of the professor made a chemical compound known as flubber. Flubber, if you've seen the movie, had a radical dynamic property all of its own, where it was extremely bouncy, extremely resilient, hard to destroy, but also took on a mind of its own. Flubber became its own individual person. Because Flubber got away from the professor, Flubber actually went down underground, and we don't really know what happened to Flubber, but the evolutionary scale says that Flubber probably became Toontown. Now, at some point, aliens come into this and they want a piece of this flubber material. And this flubber material has now evolved and grown into its own sentient, dynamic proportions where it has created an entire town of characters, of cartoons, as you will, of Toontown. Toontown is below Earth and where the flubber had originally escaped to, and it kidnaps one of our basketball players because for whatever reasons aliens and cartoons got into an argument and they decided to settle it on a basketball court. Thereby, the Space Jam movie told the rest of that story. Now, once Space Jam comes into full dynamics, into full play, humans are now fully cognizant that cartoons and humans occupy the same world. So we have to start regulating the cartoons because cartoons do not operate on the same physical dynamic mechanics that we do. They jump off a 100-story building, bounce, get right back up. They're fine. So we have to create a police force to regulate where these tunes go. Thus, by creating the Cool World movie franchise. Cool World has this one cartoon, if you will, that wants to become human. And her dying wish, or her wish in this movie, is to make herself so real that she can then inhabit the human world. She fails in this movie. However, in the same world, there is a cartoon who has discovered how he can look, appear, and interact with the real world just like he was in the cartoon world. And this is where Who Framed Roger Rabbit comes into play. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the quintessential period piece for why it is that humans and cartoons could never coexist. That's how Willy Wonka created Toontown.
Dad, I just wanted to say that are you still doing that Nutty Professor thing?